Daily Art Adventure number 808. Thumbnails. And today is January 13, hard to believe. See, one take one so far. See if I can get a monitor operating over here. There we go. Hello, friends. My name's Dan. Thank you for joining me today. This is Daily Art Adventure number 808. Can you see that? Barely. There we go. 808. Thumbnails, or as I called it there, thumbnailing my way to paintings. So I've mentioned periodically that I think people, I think you all, I think people should do thumbnails and tonal sketches and color sketches. I think all of those are a really good idea. I really do. As you know, I just don't usually do them. But sometimes I do. And I have two commissions on the table right now, both of which require some thumbnail sketches. So, hey, before I get going though, special crazy shout out, thank you to my most faithful viewer, I would have to say, without question, those of you regulars know it's true. Hello, Maraid. We know him as Uncle 60. Those of us who know him know his name. Real name is Horatio. I hope it's okay to tell people your real name. Horatio, with a C, that is. And Christmas has come early, no, late. Today, Horatio, your package arrived, and I'm like a kid in a candy store. Horatio sent me a box of art supplies. I am completely blown away. A total of 20 brushes, 13 oil brushes, and 7 watercolor brushes, 3 different mediums, the 3 that I use the most. He must have been watching me. Williquin, Neil McGilp, and Gamblin, plus a bar of soap, which I have used and will gladly use again, and 1 pencil. Oh, and he evidently wants me to do, Uncle 60, evidently you want me to do a really small painting, right? I'd be glad to do that. So maybe this is the moment that that I should do that. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm completely blown away. I've had a great time unwrapping these things. And again, you know exactly the kind of brushes that I want to use. Mostly filberts, then a few flats and rounds, and fan brushes, all of which, as you well know, will be well used. I'm completely blown away, Horatio. I am humbled, and thank you. The rest of you, I guess you didn't read that in the fine print. That if you watch my video, you're supposed to send me gifts. Evidently, that's the rule. I wasn't aware of that. Not aware of that till today. But anyway, thank you so much. Uncle 60, a.k.a. Horatio. I appreciate that immensely. And they will all get very well used, as you know. And I thank you very much. And I'm reading your comment. Excuse me, sweet girl. I'm going to move this so I can read it a little more easily. All right, and I'm going to move you guys so that you have a better view of what I'm doing here. There we go. So I have 2 commissions that I'm working on. These are 2 copies of the same thing here. This is a after wedding painting, a honeymoon destination. And now I'm forgetting what the name of the location. It's Hawaii, and I think it's Kauai. And this is the photograph that my client sent to me. And I'm supposed to do a 24 by 36 painting of this. It's a beautiful scene, but it presents quite a challenge because it's not a good painting as it is. A little bit, it has some shadow of cloud over on this distant cliff. I got online and looked at a whole bunch of photographs. This valley faces northwest, I believe, which is important to know in case I move the sun one way or the other. I need to know, like I know the sun can't be there because the sun never sets that far in the northwest. Anyway, so that's one of the projects. And this is why I need to do thumbnails, because I have almost no idea which way I'm going to go with this. And then the other project is another wedding painting. And this is of a wedding in Virginia somewhere, I think. Now, why on earth I didn't get from my client exactly what this venue is, I just was flat on my feet. But I have several nice pictures of the bride and groom, and then a couple photographs of the venue, and I have to make something out of that. Of all the photographs of the bride and groom, I think I like the one of them walking toward us the best. The groom looking at each other and walking toward us. I think that's I'm glad to have, and of course I can blow all these up. I have them on my computer. This is just thumbnails. But the big challenge here is where to place. I like this view right here where they're walking down a sidewalk away from us. So I could simply take this view of them and put them here. Of course, I can't do that simply because in here, the light's coming strong light from the right, and here it's backlit from the left. So all those kinds of issues need to be worked out. So let's talk for a minute about thumbnails. And I'm going to be working on, I'm sorry. I thought I forgot to mention Horatio's asking me to do a 5 by 5 inch painting by sending me a canvas that size. All right, thumbnails. Are we set up? Are we arranged in the right place? Yeah, pretty much. I'm not all of a sudden going, wait, do I have an orientation for this? I don't think I do. I think I can do it any way I want. And I think I tend to favor the verticals. Okay, so I'm going to look at that reference and imagine I'm pretty firm on when I'm doing thumbnail to use the art grip, if you will. I feel like your mind is more flexible and open. Okay, so this is, I think, the best scene that I have of the venue. It's nice because people like water in paintings. The horizon is nice and low in the photograph. That helps already. The downside of this, it's got a bare tree, and I can tell from all the other photographs that it was a beautiful fall day. You see? So it looks, I'm wondering if I can substitute fall color. Is this a dead tree? Or is it a tree that all the leaves just fell off earlier than the other trees? I don't know, but I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to send sketches to these people, of course. But I think I'm going to make a wild guess and say that that's not a dead tree, but in fact is a tree whose leaves have fallen off prematurely. And so I'll put some scant foliage on it. How about that? I won't make it I won't make it thick foliage like, say, these trees, but I'll make it definitely fall color, because I think that's, I imagine that was part of the charm of the day, was the beautiful fall season. And now I'm playing with the idea of the angle of this. Okay, here's my number one rule for myself for doing thumbnails. It's real simple. Keep your hand moving. Just keep moving. All right, that one's better already than the first one. Bye, sweetie. Hello. Yeah, Mairead, my granddaughter. I'm sorry I didn't make much of her presence. I was a little distracted today. Welcome, Femox and Monique and Brenda. I don't know if you guys caught that at the beginning that Uncle 60 sent me a box full of art supplies. Crazy. Wow. That's crazy. I appreciate it immensely. I don't see, Uncle hadn't made a comment yet, so I don't know if he's watching or not. Okay, I've got a problem here. That's why you do thumbnails. I don't have the bride and groom I don't have a place for the bride and groom. At the moment, if I put them in there, they'd be kind of floating in space. Also, another rule perhaps for me of thumbnail sketches is I do a border, but the border is only suggestive. It's by no means is it definitive, or I can violate it. Does that make sense? I have permission. I give myself permission. I love the bride's dress here. So for instance, I drew a border and then said, wait a minute. That's not right. Let's move them down like that. There we go. I'm starting to get somewhere now. Some of the factors that I'm thinking about here is the water being horizon low. So this is a rare case view where we actually see a literal horizon because of that water, right? So it's both the visual and the literal horizon are one and the same. And this big, looks like some kind of historic red brick building. I'm putting the edge of that building at the 1/3 point right there. So law of thirds, I'm following that quite well. And then I'm making this tree. Again, here's the main photograph that I'm looking at. And that and this. And then making this tree, which I will put fall foliage on it. Unlike this photograph, where the two are separate, trees over here and buildings over here, I'm going to make them overlap because it's much more pleasing visually if the tree and the building overlap so they're not separate. And then hang on a second, do I have a little eraser pencil? I'm supposed to have one here. I don't. So I'll just use this then. So then that's the bride's white dress. I'm using a 4B pencil, by the way. I would prefer to use that lead holder device that you've perhaps seen me use before, but I have one in the car, and I think I have one downstairs, and I didn't feel like, and she's holding a bouquet of flowers, I didn't feel like rushing downstairs to get it, so I'm just making do with a very soft pencil. Okay, a little bit of luck here. The light on the bride and groom. So here's the bride and groom that I'm taking, and here's the building is mostly this. And in both cases, the light's coming from the left here, so that's convenient. In other words, all this side of the building will all be in shadow. There's this side of the building is not particularly attractive, so I don't want to make a huge issue. It's not a beautiful ornate. You could tell it's old historical something, red brick, but not particular. Oh, there's a lantern there. That might be a nice element. And I might do this. I do this kind of trick often where I raise up a lantern or a street light or a traffic light or whatever, either higher or lower than it is in reality. Oh yeah, okay. I tell you the truth, I'm quite happy with how this is falling together. I had almost no idea what I was going to do. I'll give you some other, I'm almost drawing too fast. I'm doing things faster than I can talk. The tree trunk at an angle, that's one of the rules for painting trees whenever possible. If this is your canvas, don't make your tree like that. Make it like that. Okay, so, and in fact, the photograph encourages me in that regard because it's even more slanted in the photograph. The fact that I have a dark background, the silhouette, the edge of he's a Navy, I don't know, that's much language, I don't know what rank he is. Her father, I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I think was captain in the Navy. She is the sister of William Buddy, for whom I have now done 2 paintings. Anyway, some of the things that are happening nice here. In fact, a little bit cast shadow would be nice as well. As I said, I'm a little delighted that this seems to be gelling much more quickly than I expected. I was gearing myself up for kind of a long arm wrestle with this, because this did not present itself to me immediately when I looked at it, but it's then just a little bit of white window with blue reflection in it. That'd be nice. Wow. Okay, so this is extraordinary. Frankly, I don't want to mislead you. 3 sketches to get to this point is extraordinary. I think normal for me would be about 20. And here it's happened in 3. So hey, I'm not going to complain. I'll take it. I will take that. It's just an unusual stroke of good luck or good blessing, as the case may be. Okay, so I'm going to put this one aside for a minute. Let's do the other one. And by the same token, I am Uncle 60. You are a gem. Is that sweet or what? FEMA, the angle of the tree shouldn't lead off the page. Let me go back to that and explain that a little bit more. No, this is a general rule for. I'm going to go ahead and draw on this little canvas at Uncle 60. If you're doing a scene and there's a tree in it, I'll draw the mistake first of all. There's a tree. Okay, that's the mistake. What's the mistake about it? Is you're missing an opportunity because the edge of the painting already provides you with a straight vertical line. And if the tree trunk is parallel to that, it's a waste. It's a missed opportunity. I'm sure Uncle did not expect me to draw on his canvas with pencil, but it just happens to be here. So generally speaking, you want your trees, the ones that are close to the edge you're painting in particular. I mean, more often than not, I think you want your trees to be at an angle, but of course, many trees are straight up and down, so you have to take all that into account. Okay, so there you go. So there's the right way to do it. You see? Angle. Much more exciting. A part of a bigger principle. I'll do this on pencil now. In a composition, vertical lines. Let's give them an. Let's energy 1 through 10. 10 being high energy, and 1 being sleeping. Okay, let's call a vertical is maybe a number 6. A horizontal line is a number 1, but a diagonal is considerably more than a vertical. Let's call it an 8. Okay, so and it depends where, how angled, and so on, and how they interact with other things. But that's just a good thing to keep in mind. So trees are usually much more exciting if they are at an angle instead of straight up and down. All right. Now, my next commission in this painting is supposed to be 24 by 36. I'm sorry I didn't look it up right before I started this broadcast, but it's a famous valley on the, I believe, the westernmost island of Hawaii. Again, when in doubt, just make your pencil move. Let me talk about that a little bit more. We are visual artists more than, but let me say that another way. We are right brain artists much more than left brain analytical linguistic artists. I have discovered this probably more from my wife, who is not an artist, makes no pretense of being an artist, has no embarrassment about not being an artist. Do you understand? She tells a story about when we were first married, and I was putting together a bulletin board, and it had a little illustration in it, and she said, "Ooh, can I color one of the pepperonis?" And I said, "Sure," with a marker. And so she colored one of the pepperonis on the bulletin board, and you could tell which one was hers from 50 paces. We've laughed about that for decades. Anyway, I've learned that when I'm talking to a non-artist, many times they'll be in their left brain. They'll be in their linguistic, analytical, if mathematical perhaps, side of their minds. Like, why did you do that? And the reason they give will be like a logical reason. I don't know if I'm making much sense. Again, I'm trying to describe what it's like to talk to a non-artist, and many times the non-artists, think we're doing things because of analytical reasons, linguistic reasons. I'm not saying it very well, sorry. And that is certainly not the case. So we're visual. And the best way to get in touch with your right brain, your visual brain, is to shut up, like I am not doing right now, is to shut up and just draw. Now, of course, as you know, let me go back to my other sketch that I just finished a minute ago. There's plenty of left brain analytical stuff. There's plenty of stuff for your left brain to do. Like I pointed out several things here. Like, first of all, law of thirds, right? That's analytical. There and there. Light source from here. Tree at an angle. Raising the lamppost up so that it's not the same height as the bride and groom, and creating an angle and so on. There's plenty for your left brain to do. Don't get me wrong. Plenty analytical stuff. But the real secret of a beautiful piece of art is its visuality, not its analysis. Of course, there's entire schools of modern art in the 20th century. And I'm using the word modern here in the colloquial, not like an academic. So you historians just cool it. I'm using the word modern for contemporary and everything all thrown in together, what normal people call. All right, so I guess I did have hello, Femox, thanks for getting the tree idea. And hey, Susan, I know I have been missing. Oh, I have missed painting. Oh my goodness, this last week, it's been one of those, you know, my interruptions had interruptions. I always wince when people, you know, I'm a full-time artist. Do you get to paint every day? It's a palm slap to forehead. It's like, oh, I wish I did. Oh, I wish I got to paint every day. I always have like fantasies of when I'm old and have fewer responsibilities in life, you know. My funeral arrangements are all made and so on and so forth. My taxes are all paid, you know, my mortgage is paid. And when I have less junk to do, I think that's all a fantasy. I don't think it's ever going to happen, by the way, but because the older you get, the more trips you have to make to the doctor, which was one of my interruptions last week. More on that later. Anyway, no, I'm perfectly fine, but there's a story there. I'm working really hard on this one thumbnail, aren't I? Okay, back to my reference. This is the photograph, and this is what my bride, my client, this is one of their their honeymoon photographs. This is what and that's what she's expecting me to paint, which I'm glad to do. Then I went online and looked at a whole bunch of other images. That is actually, I printed it on photo paper and it came out like electric color. So this ordinary paper is really better, more realistic color. So I have a much better idea of what this valley looks like, first because I went to Google Earth and looked at it from a number of angles and so forth. All these other pictures just give me options and details and sort of close-ups of what it is that's going on here. Lovely photograph, not a great painting, right? It's a typical snapshot, just like I would take. They got out of the car, they walked to the edge of the cliff with their phone or their camera, held it up to their eyes, and went clickety, clickety, click. Just like me, no criticism. Especially Kelsey, if you if you happen to catch this broadcast. I'm doing this for Kelsey. No criticism. This is just like the kind of photographs I take, okay? But there's not enough pop happening. So, and the pop, by the way, in a scene like this, Well, you all know the most important aspect of any painting is what? Now, the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. You know, that the painting, the verb, painting the noun, a painting. What's the most important aspect is play of light. So that's what's missing here is play of light. And in an outdoor landscape like this, the play of light is virtually always weather. Okay, so there's some nice clouds in the sky here. In fact, that's part of the reason why I downloaded, like this photograph here shows some clouds in front of the cliff. See, that's more dramatic, much more interesting. Anyway, let me go back to sketching. I say let's keep your pencil moving, and then I don't do it. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's make it a late afternoon scene, and which means the sun is setting down way over here from this angle, light's coming from this angle. That would mean that this cliff is all in shadow because its back is toward the sun. Does that make sense? And then the valley is all in shadow, or mostly in shadow, and the shadow of this cliff goes across the valley and halfway up the other side. That's what I'm thinking right now. And then, so this part of this distant cliff, and when it comes time to do the painting, I will look at this. I'll look at the profile. I'll blow this up and get a good, this is a terrible copy, but I'll get a good copy, and I'll make sure that I copy the profile of this hill quite accurately, of course, because that's what she wants to see. But I'm not worrying about that right now. This is just for sketch. So now I'm thinking, well, how about then, and the water horizon is, I think, way up here. In fact, and how about if I make, I'm sort of redoing this one, but just, how about if I make a big dark thunder cloud over here, so there'd be light on this side of the cloud. And then that gives us a real dramatic silhouette of this, and then the water in that context, in this environment, I think would be quite dark. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. And a little bit of light, sunlight hitting the, close to the beach here, sunlight here, and yeah, and some light on the up close. Let's see how that grabs us, shall we? Yeah, and then this, I think this will be dark as well. So now, which would be darker? In this sketch, I made the cast shadow. The shadow in the valley is darker. Let's try it the other way around this time. Let's see if the dark side of this hill were darker. Either one, because this could be, this down here, this is up close, do you see? And this is far away. So the far away could be lighter because of atmospheric perspective. On the other hand, the first one I did, this is darker because it's a cast shadow, and a cast shadow is darker than a shadowed side. Are you with me? Like if you have a coffee cup here and the light's over here, here's the shadow, and the core shadow. Are you familiar with this? The transition, the highlight, and so on. And then there's a shadow of the cup. Generally, all things being equal, which of course many times they're not equal, all things being equal though, the cast shadow will be darker than the shadow side of the object. Free lesson right there. All right, so that's what I've got going here. But on the whole, I think this is more interesting. I think at the moment this is more. Let me try that again. And actually, there's some tree stuff. It doesn't go immediately doesn't fall off immediately. As we're looking down a valley, there's trees up beneath our feet coming up close to us. So let's try something like that. And then, of course, there's a lot of vertical texture in the walls of this cliff. What would happen if I put a big dramatic thunder cumulonimbus cloud right here in the middle of, off to the side, but in the middle of the sky instead of the way I did way over here to the right? What would that look like? So this would be deep blue, dark blue, big cloud. By the way, here's one of the, I'll give you a quick tip about landscapes. It's Bob Rankin's boundary ratios. You want a different number of major color shapes on each boundary. When you're doing a landscape like this, one of the dangers with a landscape is that you have blue sky all the way across. You virtually never want to do that. You virtually, because you don't want a boundary ratio number of 1, in quotes. In other words, you don't want one color all the way across any of these. So having a cloud punch through the top of your painting should be your standard operating procedure. I've already done that in all 3 of these. Let's go to a clean piece of paper now. Looking at those, squinting at those. There's something nice about that. Having 3 major shapes. Here, again, here's the 3 major shapes. This hill, and the cloud, which is not reflected in the photograph. And then just the negative space, the triangle of the ocean in between them. That's somewhat pleasant. Time up to sharpen my pencil. I put my eraser down right around here somewhere. I mean, not my eraser, my sharpener. Here it is. There are a couple of things that I buy, like every other trip to the art store. Thank you, Horatio. I'll buy another one of these pencils because I go through them like crazy. And these don't last very long. That's a hard lesson to learn. When it starts chewing up your pencil, just chuck it. It's not worth, costs $2 or something. So just buy a handful of them and then throw them out when they don't work very well anymore. Somebody just, MW Rehab 1. You are exactly correct. I intended to say something about that. Okay, so Rehab says, this is the part that is more tedious to me than actually executing the painting. You're exactly correct. This is the most difficult and painful part of the process. And it's ironic because people, that's just so counterintuitive. People would not think, they would think, doing a 6 by 8 foot painting is like a lot of work. Well, it's a different kind of work, but you're exactly right. This is hard. My forehead is on my hand as I speak. This is hard. because you're kind of shooting blind. You're having to be really creative. Creativity is hard work. By the way, I just pulled out another trick, of course, that might help some of you. I grabbed a different pencil. You can't tell yet, but this pencil, I'm going to try another one with the big storm cloud in the middle. Maybe a double dipper about that. This is a brown pencil. That's a good trick for helping you stay creative. I know it's silly, it's crazy, but simply changing the color or the medium. Another trick is change mediums. Well, that won't work very well. Let's see if I've got a pen here that works very well. Change mediums completely. So instead of doing a sketch this size, boy, here's a real thumbnail. Still looking for a pen that works well. There we go. Because you will accidentally do something when you're doing something this size that you won't do when you're drawing this size. And the fact that it's a different feel, a different medium, very often sparks. I don't even know why exactly. It's just a different tactile sensation, a little different drawing process, different shading process. So I'm jumping ahead of myself here. I was going to say change colors of pencils, and then I said, well, for that matter, change away from pencils completely and do like that, a pen and ink. Same thing, watercolor, pick up anything whatsoever. All right, let's go back to the brown here. I believe my all-time record for thumbnail sketches for one painting was in 1978, and I have a video of this on my channel. It's not a live, it's an edited video. It's called Pen and Ink, Vintage Pen and Ink, because I'm redrawing, drawing on top of an illustration that I did, pen and ink illustration that I did in 1978. It was a commission, and I was very intent to please my clients. It was one of my first commissions in my life, which I wanted to do a good job, and I did 179. I counted them, and I kept them. I still have them somewhere. I did 179 thumbnail sketches. Yes, pages, pages, and pages, and pages like this. Now I'm wondering if there was sometimes there's a narrow band of light underneath a thunderstorm like that. Does that make sense? Let me do the... So here I'm drawing with white. That gives me another idea. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but another option would be to grab a piece of black or gray paper, and instead of, for a thumbnail sketch, especially if you're stuck, I'm halfway stuck right now, especially if you're stuck, is instead of doing a dark medium on white paper, reverse it and do, I've switched colors again, do a light medium on dark paper. Often can unlock some creative accidents, creative juices get flowing. I think this is essentially what this scene looks like. These are trees. Here's the foreground, which I will ignore quite a bit, I think. And the ribs in the side. I think this is the whole thing is a volcano or a caldera, maybe. I don't know if that qualifies as a caldera, but a huge volcano. It encompasses basically the entire island. Hi, kids.
Hi.
I think part of the reason that the ancients, the Renaissance and Middle Age people often did sketches in terracotta, number one, because it was available. I mean, to this very day, art schools, serious art schools, have the students drawing in this particular color. I can't even see what it's called here. The pencil's so dirty. But it just, as I said, prompts a different, it makes your brain wiggle and jiggle a little bit different. So you often end up coming up with ideas that you wouldn't have come up with if you were just drawing in black. Now, I might be stuck here because I'm basically doing the same thing over and over and over. Okay, let me try something. I'm going to go back to pencil. I hope that you can see the benefit of holding the pencil this way instead of this way. This is your control grip, and it does not engender freedom, spontaneity. It clicks you into the wrong part of your brain when you hold the pencil this way, in my opinion. And in this regard, my opinion is correct. I've had several over the years, of course, when I talk about this. Usually an art student or a mature art student say, well, you know, I went to Chicago Institute of Art, my professor there, he never held his pencil that way. And I'll tell you what usually happens. I go and look up that professor's work. And in fact, they are not a spectacular draftsman. And that's part of the badness. Not every student can discern really good draftsmanship. There's plenty of spectacular draftsmen out there. But there's also plenty of mediocre ones, that some of whom are moderately famous, successful artists. They're successful for other things, but not because of their draftsmanship. And I'm not claiming, I'm not by that saying I'm the best, but I'm better than I would be if I held my pencil in the wrong way. Is that fair enough? Okay, here's what I want to do. Excuse me just a second. I thought I had some blending stubs in here. Oops. I don't seem to. That's strange. Okay, I'll use my finger. If I had some weather coming down in front of this distant hill, would that be effective? So then essentially I'm having the top of the distant cliff peeking out above the cloud, and then the cloud comes all the way down here. I am going to just give that some definition, holding the pencil in the wrong way. Do you see? How would that do? Again, I have a little bit of an indication of that in this photograph right here, with a cloud coming in front of, two clouds in front of the distant cliff. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Hello, some person. Some person says, makes a good point about the different colors. They're not as dark. I agree. I think that's a good observation. More room for values range, right? With not much work. We can get full range, of course, with graphite, but I think that's a good point.
Really
Yeah, smooth, isn't it?
They're nice. Are these ones really new?
Let's see, now this is not working, but I can't tell if it's because of execution of the thumbnail or if it's really a bad idea. I'm going to try it one more time. I've got the basic drawings, pretty much that, and the water. Everything else is negotiables. Trees down here, getting smaller and smaller. Ridges in the sides of the cliff. Foreground right there. How about if I just made the clouds smaller? It's not so big as that one. Ooh, now that might work. There, that just sparks something. I'm going to go back to one of these previous sketches. Say, what if I had some? So this is an electric eraser. This is one of those little devices that you see in the art store or the art catalog, and you go, oh, who needs one of those? Until you buy one, then you go, oh wait, that's a great little tool. So I'm wondering about small, maybe wisps of cloud coming down there. Maybe.
Michael, what are you doing these for?
I have to do a painting of this photograph. But this is not a very good photograph for painting.
Okay.
So I have to do something with the weather and the light.
Okay.
All right, that's intriguing me a little bit. Let me go back. Let me do a bigger, because I'm finding I'm having to render that a little bit more carefully. So at some point, and by the way, I did call this broadcast thumbnail, and this right here, in my opinion, is sort of a cross between a thumbnail and a values sketch. Okay, the painting is going to be 24 by 36, so fairly large for some of us anyway. Pull the photograph back up. There we go. I will almost certainly do, again, here's the real scene. I'll almost certainly do to this composition the same thing I do to most of my cityscapes, which is I will verticalize it a little bit. I'll squeeze it together to make the hills a little more dramatic. I'm already doing that here, and want you to know that that's intentional. I don't want to do it so much that my client goes, it thinks that doesn't look like, that's not what it looks like. If that's the way they respond, then I've overdone it. Does that make sense? But Albert Bierstadt, good example of that. His famous paintings of the Sierra Nevada mountains, 1850s, 60s, 70s, something like that. Hudson River School. They made their mountains intentionally more dramatic than they actually were. Getting down to some serious rendering now. Whoever said this was the more tedious, some person. It is so correct. so correct. I'm so relieved when this part of the process is over. This is the hardest part. The second hardest part, after thumbnail, after I come up with a thumbnail sketch that I like, the second hardest part will be a values sketch. Third hardest part will be a color sketch, and the easiest part will be the finished painting. In other words, the bigger it gets, the easier it is. So I'm going to do a little bit more careful rendering here. And again, this what I'm doing now is really almost a cross between no, it is a cross between a thumbnail and a value sketch, tonal sketch, no tan, if you know that word. And the word was new to me just a couple years ago. Again, I'm using a 4B, I think. Yeah, 4B pencil, very soft. Insinuating, suggesting, I will be suggesting a lot of atmospheric perspective here. And I would rather do this with a blending stub, but ironically, I have some across my office, across my studio over there, but I don't want to interrupt broadcasting. I'll get one, so I'm just going to use my fingers. That's an artist's finger, isn't it? I wouldn't mind right now, I wouldn't mind doing this right here on a piece of gray paper. I may do that for my value sketch, my no tan, my black and white tonal sketch. I may get a piece of gray paper because all of a sudden I've got myself into a position where, which is not a bad place to be, where this painting is all about values, which because that's what all paintings are all about. So I don't know what I mean by that, other than maybe I'm just all of a sudden I'm keenly aware of the fact that it's all about that bass. Sorry, I saw that song. I only know that song because I paint at wedding receptions. I honestly, I wouldn't even know what that song was, except for I hear it at wedding receptions. And it was, I picked somehow, you know, Google sends you these crazy things. They say, I bet you'd be interested in this article. And stupid stuff, you know, I'm embarrassed to admit I look at it, but it was, you know, the 50 worst songs in the last, whatever, in the last 50 years, something like that, or 100 worst songs, and one of them was, it's all about that bass. I was glad to see it on the list. I quite agreed with them. I'm looking at your chats. Hello, Maggie.
Are these the ones that Uncle 60 gave to you?
Ray, thank you. I'm glad this is helpful. Definitely about the weather. Okay, so here's the part, and this might not end up being a good idea, but I'm thinking about some now, not huge bank of cloud, but just some wispy wispy weather, wispy clouds coming in.
Come on.
In front of this hill. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, folks. This is just the kind of thing that happens when you just keep drawing. How about, so what just happened? It's a complete accident. I was thinking clouds, and then I backed up and said, wait a minute. Those aren't clouds, those are sun rays. Oh my goodness. Now, you have to watch out for sun rays, because it's a real thin line between dramatic and corny. That is really true. But if you can stay on the right side of corny, you know, it can work. Same thing like with a rainbow, you know. It can go really corny really fast. But wow. That sure looks interesting, doesn't it? It's a lot more interesting than anything else that I've been doing. Okay, so you just saw me. I feel kind of stupid in a way because that was a complete accident. I wasn't thinking about sun rays at all, and I should have maybe thought about it, but I didn't. I made some marks, and all of a sudden, after I made the marks, my brain went, wait a minute, those will look more like sun rays. Hey, that looks better than wisps of cloud, maybe. Okay, I'm not sure about this yet, so I'm still fleshing it out, but okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are in Albert Bierstadtville. I just mentioned him a few minutes ago. Talked about how he makes his mountains more dramatic than they actually are. Yeah, well, sun rays like that, that's so does my client really want an Albert Bierstadt view? Well, this is part of the reason I'm doing a sketch, because I'm going to send this to her. Hello, Barbara. Uncle 60, there you were. No, we got Uncle, like, did you just join us, man? I've been telling everybody about your audacious gift. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 brushes, 3 different mediums, a bar of soap, and a 5x5 inch canvas that he clearly wants me to do a small painting on. Uncle, you shouldn't have. That's putting it mildly. I am absolutely blown away, my friend. Arrived this morning. Uncle said he told me something was coming. I had no idea. That is too much. Then I laughed and said, the rest of you didn't know that the fine print on my broadcast says you're supposed to send me gifts. Just kidding. Anyway, thank you, my friend. I'm just blown away. I will use all of those, as you know. He knows exactly what to send me because he knows what I use. Bingo, bullseye on every count, my friend. Thank you so much. All right, so here's another trick for thumbnails. When you run out of gas, put it aside. Put it aside, do something else. All right, so this is the best idea I've had so far. Remains to be seen whether that's what I go with, but that's pretty interesting. I think I'm going to put it aside, and I'm going to end this broadcast because I called this broadcast Thumbnails. For those of you who missed the early, I have 2 commissions in operation here. One is a wedding scene with a building, a bride and groom, some water, and the surprise here was that I came up with what I think is a killer idea in just 3 thumbnails, which is ridiculous. Average for me, I think, is 20. And so the next step is, on both of these, I've already started going this way, is I will do a roughly 4x5 inch, something like that. And that's not a thumbnail, that's a sketch. So I'll call those, and I'll do them in black and white. And that'll be my next broadcast. I don't know if that's going to happen tonight or not. Probably yes. But I'll end this broadcast with just thumbnails. The hardest work of painting. This is why I don't do thumbnails. They're too hard. All right. Thanks you guys for watching. Thank you all. Hello, Zamrite. Yeah, thank you all for commenting. And thank you, Uncle 60, for Barbara. One of these, the Hawaii landscape is 24 by 36, and I think this one is probably 24 by 30 tall. All right, thanks guys, been great fun. Appreciate your company. I'll be back again, I hope soon in this evening a little while. Bye-bye.